I had to make this video because two things happened simultaneously. I was wrong and I was very right about the person. You remember the recent video I did about Sean Strickland comments about LGBTQ community? This one right here. Well, apparently many of us reporting on this occurrence were wrong about who asked Sean the question. A lot of us thought it was this guy, but apparently it was this guy who tweeted this after the memorable interview. Have received so many amazing and positive messages since yesterday's media day. I am grateful. Most importantly, I've heard from people in the LGBTQ plus communities. He misspelled it. LGBTQT plus. Communities who don't have a platform to share their thoughts and concerns. These are the voices we need to listen to and amplify. So my bad, guys. I want to make it clear that Sid Ziegler did not ask Strickland all these irrelevant questions, but I wasn't wrong about him either way. Actually, whatever I assumed about him turned out to be right. Apparently, my comments in the last video were so ridiculous to him, he had to feature the episode in his recent article for Outsports. I'm honored. Just as honored as I was when actress Adele James blocked me on Twitter for calling out her BS about Queen Cleopatra. So why did so many people get confused? Why did we think Sid Ziegler was the one directly speaking to Strickland? Well, because right after the press conference happened, he went on a rant on Twitter, as if he was personally touched by the whole situation. Plus, he is a journalist himself, or as he self-describes on his X bio, let me get this right. Gay sports writer, Outsports, SB Nation, president of Unicornia House DJ. Okay. So now that it's all clear who he is, let's see what he had to say in his most recent article. UFC Dana White and Sean Strickland gave a green light to anonymous cowards expressing anti-gay hate. UFC fans have been empowered by Dana White, Sean Strickland and others to share their graphic homophobic messages via free speech. The article comes with a warning. The homophobic message from a UFC fan posted below is deeply offensive and graphic. Please be advised. This is 2024 for you. Safe spaces and trigger warnings. Let's continue. When Dana White was presented with a question after UFC 297 about the rabidly homophobic messages of one of its star fighters, Sean Strickland, White defended the homophobic language of one of his stars as free speech and did not criticize the actual homophobia itself. Of course, Strickland's comments, claiming he'd be embarrassed by a gay son, are as upside down as you'd expect from someone who's been hit in the head too many times. And it starts. Sean Strickland did not say he would be embarrassed by a gay son. This is what's annoying. Why not to post a direct quote? Why to paraphrase and do it wrong? Why try to make it sound worse than it was? Every time Ziegler speaks, he just further proves Strickland's point. It's the activists that are the problem, or as he put it, an infection. It's the activists and allies that are harming the LGBTQ community. The article continues. Since White's green light for homophobic language, UFC fans and even sports writers like Jason Whitlock have taken to social media direct messaging and email to send LGBTQ people some of the worst messages, directly or indirectly, we have ever seen in 25 years of advocating for LGBTQ acceptance in sports. This is a DM on Instagram from an anonymous coward sending me a seemingly physical thread, among other horrific anti-gay language and lies. I am not going to read it out loud because I don't want the YouTube gods to come after me. I'm putting it up on the screen. I also censored it, but you can read it on your own time. Obviously, this message is disgusting, but it would be disgusting directed at a straight person as well. It's threatening, it's bad, and I will never condone or support this type of behavior. You have to be a person of very low intelligence to write something like this to anybody. I got my fair share of hate since I started doing YouTube, but it just comes with the job. And you can't take it seriously. People who are worth paying attention to are those who would never lower themselves to something like this. But unfortunately, still, I have to blame Ziegler for the fact that he is getting this type of messages in his inbox. See, putting words in Strickland's mouth is playing against you. He did not spew hate towards gay community. He actually very clearly stated he loves gay people and couldn't care less about who sleeps with whom. He was very clear about the fact that he hates activists and allies who keep playing victims, who are writing fake narratives like in this case. Who are we fighting so hard to bring inappropriate things into schools? So tell me, who is guilty now of the fact that people think Strickland hates gay people? You. You are writing the narrative. Let me prove it by bringing back this clip.
I like the fucking gays. Here's the thing, I've never, you guys think I've ever shit on a gay man or shit on a gay woman? I like the gays. It's fucking freedom. We still have it in America. We'll teach you about it. You guys don't have fucking freedom of speech. I'm surprised what I'm saying is probably I'm probably gonna get the fucking Canadian government to arrest me. So I don't give a fuck who you fuck. I don't give a fuck what you want to do in life. But, don't fucking tell kids about it. Don't teach that shit in fucking school. Don't fucking push your agenda. Don't try to fucking brainwash people. Don't try to go past parents. Don't try to go past all this shit and brainwash people, you fucking cuck.
So Sid, why aren't you sharing this clip? Why aren't you writing your little articles and spreading the word so it reaches Strickland's fans that their idol is actually not against LGBTQ? I'm gonna tell you why. Because you're a professional victim. You couldn't be a simple sports journalist. You are a gay sports writer. Your oppression card needs to show. If liberals weren't spinning Strickland's words, taking them out of context and actually listening to what he has to say, we wouldn't have this situation at hand. You wouldn't deal with these horrible messages. The need for division and being victimized is so clear in everything you do and say. The article also says, this is only one of the dozens of cowardly, private, anonymous messages sent to me by people who seem to be fans of UFC and Strickland, all sharing some of the most horrible anti-gay messages and slurs I have ever seen in my life. There have been hundreds of these messages sent my way, calling me a pedophile, an infection, and other language, some of which has been inspired by Strickland in particular. A bunch of the cowards, of course, quickly blocked me after sending their messages. Shocking, I know. Yeah, not shocking at all. We all get keyboard warriors like that. You know, these are people that don't have much going on in their lives and are cowards, unable to hold a real discussion or form a real argument. That's why they send stupid, offensive messages. Ignore, move on. And now the part where he mentions my video. Another of the people adding their seemingly nonsensical opinions about this is this woman, who seems to claim, in an attempt to attack both the MMA journalist and me, that there is some push on behalf of the LGBTQ community to undermine an understanding of consent to sex. Kid you not, he shared my video. And this is the part where words are put in my mouth, where the context of what I'm saying is completely changed. Here is what I said in my last video about consent.
I don't want my kids being taught about, who they could f in school. I don't want my kids being taught about, their sexual preference. Like, dude, this guy is the fucking enemy. You want to look at the fucking enemy to our world? It's that motherfucker right there.
Let me point out, Sean called the journalists, people who cultivate this sick agenda, are the enemy, are the infection. He did not call gay or trans people that. He said people like the liberal journalists who continuously find reasons to be offended, who glorify the LGBTQ community to the point that now it affects our kids' education, those people are the infection. They are turning our world to shit. I have spoken many times on my channel about the education level of our kids going down. The results in general knowledge, math, science show that our society is getting dumber. Education gets more expensive but less effective. And now the most important issue they are tackling is making sure kids as young as 4 know that they can have sex with anybody. And if you don't want your kids learning about consent, which is insane, because the only thing kids need to know about consent is that they can't give any, okay? No is the word that they should learn. So if you don't want your kids' innocence destroyed, you are called a bigot, homophobe, transphobe. So why did I mention consent? It's something that I've done a video about in the past, sexual education in schools, and what the WHO recommends for it. I've gone through the whole document, official document with the recommendations for sexual education by World Health Organization, and here are just a few bits that I found in there. Children 4 to 6 years old, they will learn information. If the experience, feeling is not good, you do not always have to comply. Or this one, attitude. The attitude, they're teaching the attitude that they have a choice. No, they don't. The only choice is no, nobody touches me. That's it. So that's why I am so focused on the topic of consent in these guidelines. And I am not saying that he or Alexander K. Lee are directly responsible for it, like I am being accused of in his article. I simply state that there was an overcorrection because of the activists, because of the agenda being pushed. And it does look bad on the LGBTQ community when we see these wrong things, call them out, and are being called homophobic for some reason. You could argue that it has nothing to do with the LGBTQ community, but they get offended here. So again, another proof that the loud activists of the community are actually harming it the most. When we call something predatory and activists get back to us calling us homophobes or bigots, get on our side, protect the kids' innocence. Doesn't matter which political spectrum you are on. This should always be a simple choice. Anyway, guys, again, I analyzed the whole WHO document on sexual education recommendation in another video. I'm linking it here and in the description. You'll have a full context of what I mean. Anyway, he also mentions in the article that he is not the one who asked the question to Strickland, that we got it wrong, and then finishes it with: it's unfortunate that White and UFC won't simply say, hey, we totally disagree with Strickland and all of these homophobes. Instead, White seems to have attacked a journalist for doing his job and has instead stayed his ground, standing by Strickland's right to express himself. My best guess is with White and UFC choosing to not condemn the opinion that Strickland has the right to express, this isn't anywhere near being over. Well, how about sports journalists asking sport-related questions? There would be no mess if the journalists spoke only about the subject they gathered there for in the first place. It was before an important fight for a UFC belt. By the way, I want to mention that in my opinion, he won that fight. We all know that Dana White wanted to get into South Africa for the longest time, so anyway, that's another topic. And how about growing some thick skin and actually listening to what someone is saying and not trying to spin the narrative to be a victim again? Anyway, Sid Ziegler shared the article on X. The graphic, threatening anti-gay hate messages I've gotten from snowflake UFC fans over the last 2 weeks have been like nothing I've ever seen before. Dana White, Sean Strickland, and people across UFC have empowered them and their hate. And then in the image it says, UFC, Dana White, and Sean Strickland gave a green light to anti-gay hate. Sending hate to anyone is low, like I said, so I want to make it very, very clear. I am not siding with any person who sent a negative messages towards this journalist. It's just wrong. But I'm standing by what Strickland actually said in his interview, that LGBTQ activists are doing more harm than good. Guess who retweeted this article? The original creator of this mess, Alexander K. Lee himself. He, of course, shared only articles that attacked Strickland for being a homophobe, so yeah, he and Ziegler are on a Delulu train together. Not to mention that these are the types of comments the article received. I think you're writing this thing which has given you visibility that you otherwise would never have had. And then maybe you'll think twice then before asking irrelevant questions in the future. Another one: Sid, I am not defending the UFC or its employees, but come on man, tell the truth. Didn't Strickland say I love the gays? Did his female UFC fighters who are gay say that he was a hater? Sid, we all know what your shtick is. It's to get clicks through lies and manipulation. You're an idiot. Well, but the funniest comment was this note posted by a user. Hilarious how triggered the DeSantis supporting gays like Sid are by Strickland's comment about being embarrassed by a gay son while completely ignoring the much more hate-filled comment about trans people. The obliviousness of gays like Sid to the fact that the cauldron of unmasked hate against trans women is inextricably tied to the against gay men due to the commonality of both behaviors as being perceived by reactionaries as unmanly and gross behaviors. I was the only person in my fraternity to stand up against the steroid pumped up bully member who had made AIDS jokes against the LGBT Student Alliance down the hall. The feeling of betrayal is deep. They are turning on each other for not giving each other enough victim points and recognition. This is real. I couldn't come up with it even if I wanted to. It's time to move on from this topic. Most people who watch UFC agree with Strickland, not because they think he is against the LGBTQ community, but because they actually heard what he said and meant. So while liberal journalists go to X to cry about some Polish girl from Cyprus calling out their bullshit, let's all use our logic and common sense and not try to pin an agenda where it doesn't belong. Attaching meaning and changing the context of someone's words is dangerous and can really negatively impact their lives. And finally, before anyone starts calling me a homophobe because Mr. Ziegler decided to mention me in his sad little article, watch my content first and you will realize that, like Sean Strickland, but in very different words, I am against LGBTQ agenda that's actually harming gay people. I am against the activists who create a divide in our society and continuously are making things worse. I am against predators hiding themselves behind the umbrella of LGBTQ to do harm and pin it on LGBTQ as well. So yeah, I felt I had to do a disclaimer or I'll find myself receiving butthurt messages too. But as usual, guys, let me know what you think. I'll be waiting for your comments and reading all of them. I have to thank you all because my channel has been steadily growing, and it's all thanks to the fact that you guys are watching my videos and sharing them in your circles. So again, thank you. And if you're new here and haven't already, please subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications to never miss another daily Freddo episode. And for even more content, check out my Patreon account. It is linked in the description. That's all for today. Have a good one.
Don't try to go past parents. Don't try to go past all this shit and brainwash people, you fucking cunt.